It's the Fight Show right here on Sports Tonight Live. And with me in the studio, as ever, is somebody who's not paying much attention at the moment, Danny Flexen, who is, I believe, reading Fighting Fit magazine. Is that something that you purport to be deputy editor of?
Sorry, mate, I was just completely engrossed in the fantastic new issue of Fighting Fit out tomorrow.
Turn it round if you want to give a proper plug.
Out tomorrow in all good news agents.
Lovely. Well, thanks. We'll talk more maybe about that, but of more interest to me at the moment is the fellow alongside you, Frank Buglioni. Of course, you came into our studios just ahead of your pro debut, Frank, and I think we gave you the bit of motivation and inspiration you needed to go through those first two fights with barely breaking sweat, 2 knockouts in the first round.
Yeah, no, it's going well. So February 10th is the next one. So fingers crossed it goes the same way.
And you took a bit of inspiration from being on here for your first 2 fights. You didn't take the nicknames that we suggested for you, though. You're going to stick with Frank Buglioni.
We'll see what I grow into. Yeah, we're going to stick with Frank Buglioni for now.
We're going to get into more detail, obviously, about what you have on the horizon and everything going with training and everything else in a few minutes' time, obviously, in a bit of a section. But I think the biggest talking point of the week, I mean, if we forget about stateside and nonsense that's been going on with Amir Khan, the usual issues that we have with Mayweather and Pacquiao, forget all that, because really the story of the week has been Big David Price, hasn't it? I mean, the way that he actually did a number on John McDermott. Obviously, we'll get about Derry Matthews as well. It didn't quite go according to plan for him, but a big weekend on Merseyside. David Price, who I think shocked everybody, and I think he can join us now. David, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and congratulations again. I'm sure you've had time to take it all in, but an incredible fight in taking a fella like John McDermott out in 73 seconds, a motivated John McDermott. How do you assess it now?
Yeah, obviously a shock to myself how quick it was done, the fight, how quickly he got him out of there, but just testament to the power and punching with it at the moment, and and progression, and I'm just really happy with the win, more than anything.
I mean, David, there's the old saying about taking 25 years to become an overnight sensation. You're a former Olympic bronze medalist, you're unbeaten as a pro, but it seems that now is the first time that everyone's really buzzing about you and really excited about you. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's a nice feeling, it's as you say, it's about time people, took notice of what was going on. But I've come under the radar a little bit, but that's probably suited me in a way. There's been no pressure early on, and now I've come into the limelight a little bit, and I'm starting to show people what I've got. So yeah, it's nice that people are starting to notice.
You mentioned, a lack of hype. I suppose. Inevitably, you've had a press conference this week, and there's a name that's been mentioned, a fella that has probably had an awful lot more publicity than you, Tyson Fury. You've made your intentions quite clear. How confident are you that we might see that fight in the relatively near future?
Well, how long's a piece of string? Do you know what I mean? It's out of my control, so I don't know what's happening. On their side, all I've done is left the ball in their court. I've done all the talking with my fists and put myself in a position where he has to fight me, but I see, because I don't know what they're thinking, I can't really say how confident I am. I'm just hopeful that it'll happen, but we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, you were pretty clever, Dave, after the fight to say that Fury was a fighting man and you knew he'd fight you in the Sky interview, because obviously that puts a little bit of pressure on him to do so, because he doesn't want to lose any respect. But could you understand from a certain point of view, A, that you're a dangerous opponent, and B, that he's quite highly rated by the EBU? Could you understand if he gave the belts up to try and move forward?
Yeah, there's 2 different ways of looking at it. I mean, one way is that he's been crying out for a fight with me for a while, and now it's gone a bit quiet. But yeah, I can't see his side of the story. I'd be an absolute nightmare for him to fight. And he's got a good ranking with the WBC and the EBU, and in a way, I couldn't really complain if he went on to fight someone who was higher ranked than me, because on paper they're a better opponent type of thing. But as far as what's been said in the past, and the local rivalry and how big a fight it'd be, then the fight should happen. But as I say, with or without Tyson Fury, I'm confident I'm going to get to where I want to be anyway. So whether it happens or not, I'm still just going to carry on regardless.
Let me ask you, Dave, because obviously everyone's consumed with an idea of you fighting Fury, and understandably so, but something no one's really mentioned. If he does vacate the titles, who do you think's next in line? Who would you fight for the vacant belt? Who's worthy of that?
I was thinking someone like Sam Sexton maybe, or Martin Rogan. But it's going to be like a tricky situation because I'm the only one who's in the mandatory position. No one else has fought in any type of eliminator or whatever, so the board will probably nominate someone, and it'll more than likely be Sam Sexton, I'd imagine. But I'd fight anyone in Britain to get that belt. It's a belt that I want. I've wanted since I turned pro, so any opponents I'll be willing to take on.
Interesting that, you know, obviously since turning pro, and you're alluding to the fact that you've done it quite quietly compared to others. We know about your achievements in the amateur game. We've got Frank Buglioni in the studio, who recently turned pro, David. I mean, obviously Frank is now finding his feet in the game. Do you feel that you've now kind of completely made your name in the program, if you know what I mean? You've got rid of the amateur background. It's a totally different thing for you now, and I'd be interested on Frank's take on this now as well. But obviously you've got that much more experience in the pro game now.
Yeah, I'm still learning. You know, I'm far from the finished article, but I'm 12-0 when I've won my first title, and you know, I think myself and a lot of amateurs who turned pro at that time are probably no longer viewed as the Olympians type of thing. And now we're just other pros. You know, we're just regular professional boxers, contenders like everyone else. So yeah, but I think the amateur thing's probably less important now than it was before, and because I'm moving on as a pro.
Well, listen, David, thanks very much. I know you're busy, but thanks for joining us. And
yeah.
just interesting that we did try and contact, obviously, Mick Hennessy, Tyson Fury, not available for comments, but we all await news on who's the next opponent and how it all pans out for you. But well done again on the McDermott fight.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers, David.
All the best, David.
But interesting, I mean, do you feel now 2 pro fights down, obviously now that David feels the fully fledged pro, and quite rightly so with what he's achieved, but how have you found it after 2 fights in?
Well, straight away with a difference in training, and obviously there's a lot more aspect in power and sort of putting your whole body into the shots. You can really sort of feel the difference. I feel like I've improved already in the short space of time that I've been pro. I'm happy in the camp that I'm in as well. I think that makes a big difference, being in with a good trainer and a good setup. So I think you just keep learning, and there's no sort of end to the learning that you do.
We're actually going to have a piece on how you've adapted, obviously, in the next issue, because we did Colin Lyons, your stablemate, last time.
Yeah.
How easy do you think it's been in comparison to someone who's a real kind of typical amateur, very upright, in and out, kind of picking points? Because you were more of an aggressive amateur, come forward type of fighter. So do you think the transition's been easier because of your style? Yeah,
I've always sort of been a come forward fighter, but there was a lot of aspects to my game that still need a lot of work. And Mark's been refining me, of sort of taking less shots and moving the head a lot more. I mean, I feel like if I went back to the amateurs now with some of the things I know and some of the training I've done, I'd actually be a lot better off anyway.
Just putting you on the spot, I mean, David's gone now, but in terms of the heavyweights, David Price, Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, the other Brits, you mentioned Sam Sexton, obviously Martin Rogan from Belfast, but where do you see David now at this stage in terms of the rankings?
He's definitely up there. I think he's definitely a contender for them, and I think any of them fights could go any way. But with the power he's got, it looks like it's in his favour.
Dan, what's your opinion on that, Dan?
It's hard to say at the moment, isn't it, whether Fury takes the fight or not. I mean, Fury's proven over longer distances than Price. Price made his name over the shorter format as an amateur, and he's been blowing people away recently, which obviously speaks well of his power, but he hasn't proved that he can sustain a good pace for 12 rounds or even 10 rounds. Whereas Fury might have, tired late in fights, but he has proved that he can last the course. So, I mean, that is an important factor should they meet. But against someone like Sexton, I think that would be a really good fight to watch.
Now Tyson obviously has fought with the Irish flag on his shorts on occasion, of course, through his ancestry. We've got Leonard Gunning now from BoxingIsland.com, who's joined us. Tyson Fury is very much a guy that, of course, you write about, that you've watched, that you obviously follow. Is that a fight you think that he would take, Leonard, with David Price?
I actually don't think he'd take Price right now. I think with the Channel 5 deal, he's probably looking at other angles. Probably just spin the Channel 5 deal out a little bit longer, and then maybe go over Povetkin. And then if he loses Povetkin, he always come back to Price. I don't think it's something that he really needs to have at the moment.
Interesting, though, if you look at heavyweights, I mean, I suppose from Ireland's point of view, it's all about the Olympics at the moment, isn't it? In terms of Conchim is probably one of the big hopes. Again, is he a guy that you'd have your eye on thinking is someone that will turn over fairly quickly?
I don't know. There's not that many professional shows at the moment. It's very expensive to get a heavyweight to turn over. he's on the high performance team at the moment, and they get massive subsidies there, and it's very difficult for one of the guys that's on the top level of the high performance and the grants they get to get them to turn over. And it's probably one of the reasons Kenny Egan didn't turn over after he won a silver, and the same with Paddy Barnes when he won a bronze.
I mean, one guy we've been talking about, at least off air so far, is Carl Frampton, who's got a defence coming up against Chris Hughes. What do you think of that fight? And what do you think of Frampton as a prospect overall? I mean, obviously Barry McGuinness, his manager, maybe sees a little of himself in the prospect and has been promoting him. But do you agree with Barry that he is the next big thing, or do you think maybe Barry's kind of influenced a little by his own career and how closely Frampton resembles him?
It's hard to argue with Barry because he always puts forward a very good argument that you always come away after talking to him. You come away thinking, actually, I think he's right. But I think it's a bit early for saying that he's the best prospect in 30 years. I really like Frampton. I'm a big fan of Frampton, have been from day one, and I've followed him around quite a bit as well. Now, he has all the tools, he has the artillery, and he has the backup and the sponsorship and everything going for him. There's no need to rush him. I don't think his progression needs to be rushed. I think this fight against Chris Hughes down in London, it's going to be a really good fight for him. He struggled a little bit, let's get it right, against Robbie Turley in Wales, and that was his coming out party. Now this is the first time he's ever headlined a bill in England, and it's almost a similar type of fight. So we'll be able to see if the progression that Carl's had from that fight, and I think he should do well. He should do well. He's top of the bill. He's got a big backing from Sky now. And I think he'll really tear into Hughes, even though Hughes is very durable and all that. But I just think Frampton should have a little bit too much from him. And if he doesn't, then he really needs to be taking a step or two back because, Quig's on the horizon and he's doing the business. So Carl really needs to step up and show that he's as good, if not better, than Quig.
Just briefly, Leonard, I mean, the state overall of Irish boxing, in your opinion, both amateur, plenty of the lads in the rankings, and then obviously the professional with the Macklin fight coming up in New York, March the 17th, St Patrick's Night. I mean, overall, in rude health, in your opinion?
It's a bit of a schizophrenic scene. The amateur scene is booming. It's unbelievable for a country the size of Ireland to have so many prospects. We could have potentially prospects at 6 weights looking for medals at the Olympics, and that's great. But then you look at the domestic professional scene. There hasn't been a show for God knows how long, and there isn't going to be another one probably until McCluskey steps through the ropes in April. So the amateur side's buoyant, and the domestic professional scene is looking good. However, like you say, Frampton's fighting in London, Macklin, Lee, all abroad. And so the Irish fighters are getting a good bit of publicity when they go and fight in England. There was an Irish title fight last week in Liverpool. There's another one down in Hove next month as well. So it looks like they just have to emigrate and transfer their skills over there.
Do you know, Leonard, it's like the Premier League football, isn't it? Anyway, that's another argument for another day. But thanks very much indeed, Leonard Gunning from BoxingIreland.com. But we are going to move on a little bit. We're going to be hearing from two of Great Britain's finest prospects in the pro game coming right up. We've got the middleweight boys, Darren Barker and Martin Murray, coming right here on the Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live. This is the Fight Show with me, Don McGuinness, on Sports Night Live. Danny Flexen's put his magazine down, deputy editor of Fighting Fit, but you've had your plug. Frank Buglioni, who's talking much more sense. 2 pro fights, 2 first-round knockouts, and looking forward to what's coming up. It's not long away as well. We're going to get in more detail a little while, but just briefly fill us in. What can we look forward to? February
10th, so it's 2 weeks tomorrow. I'm fighting Ryan Clark, he's a good, strong fighter. He takes a lot of good boys a distance, so we're looking to learn a bit from him.
Interesting hearing from Leonard before, talking off air, about the state of the pro scene, obviously in Ireland and here. Overall, when you look at the shows, the Liverpool weekend that we just had, and there's more coming up, of course, that we'll talk about. Do you feel that everything's in good shape in terms of the shows that we're getting over here?
In England? Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, we've got Box Nation on the scene now, as well as Sky, who've long time, participants in the boxing industry. We've also got Channel 5. who've hitched their wagon to Fury for better or worse. You know, it'll always be exciting, win or lose. So you've got kind of 3 TV channels where not long ago there were only 1. I mean, and this is major TV channels. You've got likes of Premier Sports, Prime Time, all part of the scene as well. And a lot more discussion shows like this one. None as good as this one, obviously, but you know, a lot springing up all over the place. It just shows the sport's in rude health here. The only shame, you know, like Leonard was saying in Ireland, is that so many of their fighters have to fight abroad and they can make more money and get more publicity doing that than they can in their own country, which can't be nice.
A fellow that has fought abroad, he's certainly fought plenty of times here as well, and a guy I'm sure is in rude health is Darren Barker. Hello, sir, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well. Listen, we're just talking about all things. Firstly, your opinion on David Price. We just had a brief chat with him at the top of the programme, and in terms of the way he dealt with John McDermott, were you impressed, Darren?
Yeah, very impressed. And to be honest, I'm glad I didn't put money on it because I called that as well. I fancied it did a job early, and yeah, I didn't put money on it. That's why I'm a useless gambler.
I think someone else might have predicted it as well, Darren. I think it's because we go to the same barbers.
Behave yourself.
Well, honestly, if you guys could see me now, right, in my house, I've got no reception whatsoever on the phone. I'm actually sitting in my daughter's cot. It's the hotspot for reception in my flat. Honestly, I'm actually sitting in the cot now.
Well, other than that, how
I
are
wish
things?
we'd got him on Skype.
How are things? What's happening with you at the minute? And we'll get to the nitty gritty, but just basically set the scene of your life at the moment, training, etc.
Yeah, it's all going well. I'm in the gym, training. Obviously, just waiting for a date and an opponent. I know Eddie and
you'll have to move to the other side of the cot, I think, Darren. I think we've lost him temporarily anyway. So we're just getting to the point of he's obviously training. He's waiting for the opponent. We've had lots of chat, of course. We've heard all about Martin Murray. We'll be speaking to Martin a bit later as well because I mean, we've heard from Eddie Hearn. Where do you see this? I mean, has an offer been made? Is that fight something that you can see happening in this near future again?
Eddie was actually really honest. He was talking about the fight on Twitter, and I asked him a couple of questions. He was really honest about it. He said that there's no way the purse that he was offered for Barker to fight was the biggest of his career, which Richard Poxon at Hatton Promotions has suggested might be the case. But then I asked him, is it the second best purse of his career? Because obviously a world title shot is always going to be your biggest purse. And he admitted that it was, not by much, but he admitted it was. But he said there are other fights out there on the horizon for Darren that are worth more than a Murray fight. He also said that, you know, they're looking at a world title shot, and if that doesn't come to fruition, they could come back to Murray. Richard Poxon, obviously on the other side, is saying they've made good offers. Hearn's saying he's made Murray a good offer. So it's just kind of tit for tat at the moment. I think both fighters want the fight, but both promoters would like to see it on their own show, in their own guy's hometown, on their own TV station, crucially.
So let's put Frank on the spot again. If that fight's ever made.
I think Darren's one of the best out there. I think if he was fully fit going into the Martinez fight as well, I think he could have done the business there. I really rate Darren. He's a lovely guy as well, and I think he'll do big things.
He's a guy that you faced. In terms of sparring.
When I was younger, I'd done a little bit of sparring with him, and he was kind enough to sort of just move me around and sort of he played with me, to be fair. But he's a great fighter. So
whose achievement was greater in terms of the Atlantic City fight, the Martinez fight, obviously for Darren, the Sturm fight for Martin Murray? I mean, you know, the draw for Martin Murray, but you know, some say he lost, whatever. But where do you see the two performances?
Well, I thought Martin Murray actually won that fight, in my opinion. I think if it was over here, he definitely would have got the decision. And obviously Darren, he got stopped against Martinez, but Martinez, he's probably one of the best pound-for-pound fighters out there at the moment. So it's sort of, you've got to weigh him up, but it would be a good domestic clash.
Well, there's Martinez, Sturm. The fellow that fought Sturm is now with us, Martin Murray. Martin, we're just having a very brief chat before with Darren Barker. We lost him, so we didn't actually get to the crucial crux of the matter, which there's been lots of chat about Barker Murray. Martin Murray, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, obviously, my main priority for myself is getting a rematch with Sturm. You know, I definitely think of beating him next time, and that's what I want. But if not, there's no point me looking elsewhere. And it's the same with Barker. There's no point in going looking elsewhere if he can't get a world title shot when we're both waiting for fights. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for us both to fight each other.
I mean, Martin, is there a sense with Sturm that we've seen him against Macklin, obviously struggled against you, obviously because you fought really well, not just simply because he was struggling. But is there a sense that his next fight could be the one where he finally loses the belt and you want to make sure it's you in case someone else nips in?
Yeah, definitely. It's I've let everyone know that's why I want to fight him. I know we can beat him next time. I'm really confident I can do it. And no disrespect to him, he is on the slide. You know, he's not what he once was, and you know, it's only a matter of time before someone gets there at the right time and takes him out. And I want to be that man.
Because interestingly, the name Andy Lee's cropped up to potentially face him. That's something you don't want to happen.
Yeah, of course I don't. I mean, if Andy Lee does get the fight, I'd be a little bit gutted. But if he does, you know, good luck to him and I hope he wins. He was decent enough to wish me luck when I was fighting Sturm, you know, so I'm only going to do the same with him. I will be gutted if he gets the fight before me. But, you know, if he does get it, good luck to him.
I mean, Martin, Felix Sturm was obviously a huge step up for you. Before that, you'd fought at British title level and a couple of good imports as well for the WBA interbelt that you've got. It was a huge step up. You looked great in that fight. You made the step up with aplomb. But what did you learn from that fight, especially if you did get the Sturm rematch? What did you learn from it and what would you do differently next time?
Well, I learned that, well, it's not that I learned because I always knew it, me and Oliver always knew, but, you know, we just wanted to show people we belonged at that level and we were just waiting for an opportunity to come up and we got that with Sturm. But, you know, it's only my first time on that level and my second time going 12 rounds, so I'm only going to get better. You know, the experience was great for me. You know, it's done me confidence a lot of good, and if I did beat him, if I did fight him next time, I'm confident to beat him and I know what to do to beat him.
Do you think it helps you as well, Martin? I mean, do you feel that at your age, people might say, I think you're 29 now, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, relatively few miles on the clock, that's a good, positive thing from your point of view?
Definitely. I've been a pro just over 4 years now, and I'm 29. I started late, but I've made great progress in that amount of time. And like I just said, it's only my first time on that level, and the second time I've gone 12 rounds. So I'm nowhere near a complete fighter yet, and I'm only going to develop into a better fighter. So, you know, there's plenty to come from me. And if I don't get the rematch with Sturm, I know that somewhere down the line I will end up a world champion.
Martin, what we were just talking about before you came on the line, you might have heard us, was comparing your achievements with Barker's in your last fights. What do you think carries greater value, taking Sturm to a draw in Germany as you did, or going the rounds that Barker went with Martinez out in America?
Obviously, obviously I'm not gonna say it to him, and he's not gonna say it to me. But I could have. The thing was with me, people say, "Oh, you shouldn't have let them first few rounds go." But the thing is with me, I didn't want to get on that stage, fall flat on my face, and put everything into it like Macklin did the first half of the fight. I'm fade and get knocked out later on. You know, so that just couldn't happen with me, and so that's why I think. I personally myself, I think I did better because, you know, if you get knocked out, it don't matter who it's against, you know, whether it's early or late, you've been knocked out. So, you know, I think I did the better. I did the better out of the two of us, out of the three of us actually, including Macklin. But having said that, you know, he went up against the pound for pound number one, and Martin's a great fighter, and no doubt he's learnt loads from it, and that's why I'm pushing for. You know, people say he's Barker. Does he not want to fight you? He's just going to fight you, and I just said, listen, at the end of the day, he's just fought Martinez, the number one in the world. He's a fighter and he'll fight anybody, so he's obviously learned a lot from it as well.
Well, Martin, I think we were trying to get Darren Barker back, but I mean, if you would have a message from him, I think you've summed it up there. You've actually shown your respect for him in your summation there of the Martinez fight. So that's pretty much how you'd lay it onto him, that you think, again, that you know, he's a guy that will rise to any challenge. Yeah,
I mean, well, you know, I've never disrespect Barker. He never disrespected me, so I've got no reason to do it to him. But like I've told people many times, with the three of us, we're all at that level now, and we're all going different routes, and there's no point when we can all fight each other. I've said it for a long time that all three of us should fight off. You know, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put everything on the line, and you know, but Barker's looking for a world title fight elsewhere. Obviously, I'm looking for a rematch with Sturm. But it looks like a no-go for pair of us. So in the meantime, we might as well fight. And you know, I think it'd be great for both all the profiles, and it'd be a great fight for the British public.
Martin, let's just see. I think Darren's tried to get back in touch with us again because he got cut off before. I don't know if you've caught any of that, Darren. Martin, full of respect for you as well, but again, you know, feels that there's some great fights domestically. Yourself, Macklin. How would you respond to Martin?
Respect.
I think we've lost you again. Is that reception in your house? You're going to have to move or something, Darren. But anyway, I appreciate you've tried to get back in touch with us. So I think we've lost Martin now as well, or Martin has been good enough to join us anyway. But you can see there's plenty of respect between the two. They were both saying the right things. Yep. It shows you really that those fights are very, very possible. But you understand where they're coming from as well, though. If they're going to look for the world level first before getting it back on domestically. I mean, Frank, you must be thinking ahead to what you want to actually achieve in your career, and you've got to do it, you know, in a canny way, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for those guys, they've put the work in at the domestic level, and now they're on the international scene and at the world level. Then they've got to go for it and make as much money as they can. It would be nice to see the domestic fights, but obviously, in their shoes, they've got to do what's best for them. And
what do you take of that chat from Martin there, and a little bit with Darren?
I take that Darren needs to get a landline phone as soon as possible, really, if he's ever going to come on this show. Yeah, Martin's full of respect, but I think what he alluded to there was that Darren Barker has just fought the #1 fighter in the world. And it is a bit of a step down for him, even though it might not be in terms of talent. Murray's a great fighter. In terms of being on the big occasion, being one half of a massive main event over in the US on a major TV channel, to come back down and fight at domestic level against the British champion, with a title that he's already won as well.
Yeah, with so much to lose, really. But
well, exactly, yeah, it must be hard for him. He's looking for another world title shot.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking a bit more of that. We're also going to be joined by Joe Murray and Joe Gallagher as well to talk all things Gallagher's Gym. But next we're going to be talking to this man here, Frank Buglioni. So stay right here. It's The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live. This is The Fight Show with me, Don McGuinness, on Sports Tonight Live. Danny Flexen, who's paying full attention, and Frank Buglioni. And it's the Frank, not our, obviously, but it's the Frank section now. Now, Frank, we mentioned before, two fights in.
You might call it.
That's it. We better not. But 2 fights in, 2 devastating first-round knockouts in terms of your pro career.
Yep.
Has training changed since you actually had that first fight? I mean, I know when we talked to you a few weeks back, a good few weeks ago, you were still working and you were trying to combine everything. And, you know, after the experience of getting in there and doing it, you know, for pay, how's it changed?
Well, I mean, I'm still working full-time as well and training in between. So that situation hasn't changed yet. But no, training's going well, starting to step up a few things, a little bit more. Strength and conditioning wise, doing a little bit more with Mark. The runs are getting slightly longer, and the rounds in the gym are getting slightly longer, so moving in the right direction.
I mean, is it a finance thing that you carry on working because you can't afford yet to be a full-time pro, or is it more you just enjoy your job?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, I'm getting the money from my job as well, and plus it sort of keeps my mind occupied. I feel like when I go to the gym, I can switch off and do my boxing, and then when I'm away from boxing, I can switch off from that and do my job.
Have you started getting recognised yet, like when you do your surveying and stuff?
not so much yet. I mean, just with friends and family, but.
Well, I don't they'd recognise you.
Let's survey the damage of Frank's very first contest, because we have the footage of this fight with Sabi Monteith at the York course. So let's have a look at Frank in this very first fight. We inspired him. Frank, talk us through this.
I mean, I was very nervous coming into this fight because I'd seen Monteith against Ryder. And he was very aggressive. I think he got disqualified for headbutting, so we knew he was coming to fight. But we planned our tactics, and we knew once we got him on the ropes that he wasn't really going to be a counter puncher, so we let the shots go.
Did you think the best way to avoid his head was to punch him in it repeatedly as hard as you could? Because that's what it looks like.
Keep him at arm's length.
I almost feel sorry for him.
It's fairly wild from him. So I mean, you were getting right in there as well. Obviously, you were calculated risk, if you like, in terms of dealing with him. Yeah,
pretty much. We knew that sort of he was going to come out in the first round and try and blast away. But then once we could get him on the back foot, then it's going to be in my territory.
And in terms of when you're coming forward like that, I mean, Danny alluded to the fact before, you know, you're an aggressive amateur. So that transition, it felt very natural, presumably, when you're in there, despite even when you got a guy like that that's throwing some big leather at you.
Yeah, that's right. Coming forward, but also trying to move my head and sort of look out for their punches as well and look for the counters.
I mean, you could tell the way you were switching between the shots. There was a lot of upper body movement, kind of shoulder movement as well. Is that something you've worked on a lot?
I've definitely done a lot of work in the gym on my sort of my body movement, strengthen my obliques so I can get a lot more twisting, and I feel like that's helped my power as well.
You know where you can hear all about that as well, don't you?
Really?
In the next issue of Fighting Fit.
In Boxing Monthly?
Yeah.
Well, tell us, how did it feel when you know, the arms raised and it's all over? You've made the pro debut, you've got all your fans there, you know, you're shifting tickets already anyway, so you've got your mates there, you've trained hard. What then? Come on, tell us what happened.
I mean, it was pretty surreal after the fight. We went out and we all chatted about it in the local bars and that. It was a really nice night. Great to have the win and great to have so many friends and family there.
How did it compare though to achieving great things as an amateur to then that fight? I mean, was it a totally different feeling after the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pressure side of things, like the build-up, I thought I was going to be under a lot more pressure because obviously it's my pro debut. But since like, sort of being with Mark and learning a lot on the mental side of things and keeping the confidence high, it was actually, I felt quite relaxed going into it.
Well, let's have a look at the relaxation techniques that you imposed on Paul Morby in the second of your fights at the York Hall. This is fight number 2, so let's have a look at Frank, number 2.
Professional on their books, Frank Buglioni, the former amateur star, on the left of your screen, wearing blue trunks trimmed with white, and his opponent from Hampshire, Paul Morby, wearing gold trunks trimmed with red and black.
This is another good test again. Good matchmaking. Morby's awkward. He's a southpaw. When he's fit, he'll give someone a bit of trouble with his movement. With it, you know, they are judging a distance against someone like Morby. But Frank's a very good talent. He's a lovely lad. He's a good fighter. And I remember him from the amateur days when he used to go and watch my brother Callum and Liam. He was in the same squad as both of them. Top amateur, top England international, and it looks to be carrying with him in the pros because he's holding himself really nice. He looks in great shape. He's strong, obviously, as testament is from his first knockout that he had in his first bout. And I think he'll do very well to get Morby out of here.
Ironically, the Tibbs tandem said that that's something they're looking to hold back from Buglioni. They know he can fight, they know he can bang, and just wanting to measure his man a little bit more, use his boxing skills which he possesses, and just ensure that he doesn't load up on every shot in an effort to get his man out of there.
Yeah, definitely. He's just shipped a little left hand himself, a nice straight left hand from Morby, and maybe a little wake-up call to switch on himself and to get his tactics right and to get his mind on the job. You know, as I said with Morby, he's boxed Kenny Anderson recently, he's boxed Tony Jeffries, Rocky Fielden, and you know, the two of those took him a distance. I don't think he was fit when he fought Anderson, but Anderson got him out of there, so it'll be a good little level for him if he gets him out to be a Frank Buglioni, and depending on what shape Morby's in, he doesn't look in bad shape.
Another right hand puts him on the floor. Frank Buglioni raised his hands in the neutral corner. Paul Morby looking to beat the count, being told by the referee. All of his fans up on their feet. Will Morby have enough to survive? Use that experience to try and initiate a clinch, but he's on the back foot, he's on the retreat, trying to clear his head and get his legs back beneath him. Buglioni looking for the finish. Has Morby recovered? His legs still appear slightly rubbery up there in the ring as Buglioni gets through with another right-left combination, fell short with a follow-up. But that's another long, strong right cross that dumps Morby on the seat of his pants for the second time in the opening round. He looks a little bit dispirited. He's up on his feet. Referee Ken Curtis wipes his gloves and has called off the contest. Mild protest from Paul Morby. But
a little bit of a kiss from Mark Tibbs there. How good did that feel?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was 2 weeks after the Monteith fight, and everything sort of seemed to go really well in the preparation. I mean, I had a week off after the Monteith fight, and I just sharpened up, and I felt great in there.
Looks like you've got really long reach for your height. Just looking at that video, you've got really long arms. Have you been working a lot on your jab and stuff, take advantage of the distance?
Yeah, and what we wanted to do against Paul Morby was obviously stay on the outside of his foot, being a southpaw and elusive, try and keep him at range so that he couldn't hold when we hurt him, and then when we did hurt him, then just try and get him out of there.
What now, in terms of, you're obviously fully in the middle of training, how's it in terms of sparring, training, what are you doing day to day at the minute?
Well, we know we've got Ryan Clark now, so we've looked at a couple of his fights, and we know that he's strong, he's tough. Well, he's very tough. I think he's only been stopped twice out of about 54 outings.
At the age of 22?
Yeah.
54 fights.
I think he holds the world record for the most fights in one year as well. So he's gonna know what he's doing. He's been the distance so many times, I haven't. So it'll be interesting.
And would his record be one of those that it can be deceiving in terms of it, overloaded with losses? But
yeah, he's got 4 draws on there, so he's probably won most of them. And obviously, if he's fighting home talents in their venues and where they're based, then obviously the decisions could maybe swing in their favour. So you don't know. His record probably doesn't sort of show how good he is.
That's lovely, by the way. Is that a modelling shot, or is that just something?
That was the Mr. Porter campaign I did with a friend of mine, Lee Newman. We did a couple of summers back.
What campaign?
Mr. Porter.
What's that about?
It's just like a clothing range, but that was their sports line.
Is this something you're looking at as well, maybe to supplement the income along the way?
Well, if a few agencies want to pay me some money for putting on clothes and taking photos in, I'll be inclined.
And it's going to be.
I'm available too for those same agencies if they're interested.
Kevin Mitchell's going to be top of the bill when you fight Ryan. So again, it's a good kind of bill to. It's going to be lively as ever. Great, obviously, it's going to be a noisy one because everyone's been waiting to see Kevin again for a good while, haven't they? Obviously, since the fabulous Murray fight.
Yeah. Well, I think it sold out about 2 weeks ago, and that's pretty rare to have it sold out that quickly. So it's going to be a full capacity.
I mean, it must be a fabulous place to learn your trade there as well, alongside people like Kevin Mitchell, Colin Lyons. I mean, he's not a veteran in Lyons' class, Mitchell, but they've both been around the block and fought at a higher level. Yeah. So for a young pro coming in for the first time to the gym, that must be great to have them to emulate and to look up to.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, I train at similar times to Colin Lyons, so he's always there giving me little bits of advice here and there. Never sort of overdoes it. He's always just little bits. And Kevin, I run with him Saturday mornings as well, so I pick his brains on the runs that he's not too happy about all the time, but again, he gives a lot of good advice.
I mean, Colin's a teaching assistant, isn't he, in his full-time job, and a mentor and stuff like that, so I imagine that lends itself to giving you advice and kind of helping you through.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great people persons, and they really know their stuff, so.
You imagine that Colin's going to look at the training angle as well, all things considered there.
Yeah,
very much so.
And just fascinated anyway by all the kind of training that fighters do. And again, we were talking before about how things have changed, amateur to pro, and now the way that you're doing it. But is it still the early morning run and then work and then into the gym? I mean, how are you actually? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it varies from time to time depending on how I feel. Mark sets out a plan that sort of it goes with the flow, really, so to speak. If I'm feeling tired, then he'll give me a day off, and if I'm feeling good, then he'll sort of push me a little bit more, so it's flexible.
And you're lucky in a sense that in your day job you can get a day off now and again as well, because your dad's your boss, isn't
Well, maybe a morning off or an afternoon off, but not a full day.
Is it less stringent than Mark Tibbs? You know you've got a problem there.
That could be worse with your dad. If your dad's the boss, you could be in for all sorts of bother. It can be harder, can't it? But anyway, more chat. We're going to also, after this little break, be talking to Joe Murray, who's had a change of opponent for his English featherweight title, and Joe Gallagher, who I'm sure can tell us all about Scott Quigg. There's been plenty of chat about Carl Frampton. So, of course, this is The Fight Show, right here on Sports Tonight Live. It's The Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, with Danny Flexen from Fighting Fit magazine, and Frank Buglioni. 2 fights down and looking forward. Now, just very briefly, Frank, are you a man that sets himself targets for the year, and if so, what are you trying to achieve for the rest of 2012?
Just keep learning, just keep doing well. My next fight is obviously the most important thing on my mind, and then I'll go from there.
I can see somebody on the Skype wall. and it is a certain Joe Gallagher up in Manchester. Of course, from Gallagher's Gym, he's got a lovely, lively stable there. Joe, just earlier we were talking about Carl Frampton, just while that's still fresh in our head. Scott Quigg, of course, is one of your lads. Barry McGuigan and Carl are featured very heavily in Boxing News about their hopes and aspirations and the confidence of what they're going to achieve. Now, again, from your point of view, Quigg, Frampton, is it a fight that's going to happen, and if so, when?
Not this year, it won't. It'll most probably be next year for bigger titles on board. I know Barry's jumping up and down like a little leprechaun, desperate for the fight, but that ain't not in our plans. It's not in our plans or radar at the moment. We're not talking Frampton, they're talking Quigg, and we're just concentrating on Jamie Arthur at the moment.
Just like to point out, it's not racist to call Barry McGuigan a leprechaun. He's
No,
very energetic.
Joe's Irish anyway.
And he does like gold, as far as we know. But Joe,
he's getting all giddy and excited. Listen, Carl's a very good fighter. He's a world-class amateur. He's boxed all over the world, and like I say, I think the public, when they do want to see the fight, very much the same with Price and Fury, they want to see the kids at the best. I know we had Watson and Ben early on in the careers, which was a great fight, and obviously DeGale and Groves, but I think that's a fight that the paying public will want to see the both of them when they're both at the best and not feel shortchanged.
So with that in mind, Joe, how would you like to see Scott Quigg develop in 2012? What sort of fights would you look for him?
Well, after, looking past Jamie Arthur, most probably another defence, or Martinez, and then after Martinez, a defence of the European, and then we'll see who's around on the world stage at the super bantamweights, because at Regondo, I wouldn't even put Scott Quigg and Regondo in the same town, never mind the same ring.
But obviously Scott has, I mean, we were going to speak to Scott earlier, but Scott has sparred Regondo over at the Wild Card once. He apparently handled himself pretty well, but I guess in a pro ring over 12 rounds is a completely different story, isn't it?
Listen, you know, and I know, and everyone says it's sparring, and Regondo is a man. He's like a multi-time Olympic champion, world champion as an amateur, and he's most probably seen Scott Quigg's style around 200 times in his career, where Scott Quigg most probably seen Regondo's style once, and that's when he sparred, and we're just waiting for Regondo and another one to move on up into another weight division. But I say if the opportunity arises and it's the right fight, not necessarily Regondo, then I'm sure Quigg's team will look at that. But at the moment, I think a defence and a European title will be a great 2012 for Scott Quigg.
Just before we go any further, you're not doing any more moonlighting, Joe. Surely you can't fit any more training hours in the day, just looking at the sign behind you.
No, I've just finished training Jose Burton, Anthony Croller doing the swimming, and I'm just about to take Scott Quigg and Joe Murray on the track, so it's a long day there. I believe Frank's in the studio, isn't he?
Frank Buglioni's here, yeah, of course. He's had his 2 fights, and Jose, yeah.
His old sparring mate, Jose Burton's turned pro now, and listen, that's a great domestic fight in 2 or 3 years' time. It'd be great if them two can get it on again. It was one of the best amateur fights in 2010, I think it was. That was by John Denon, and it'd be great for them two to lock horns down the line again.
What weight's he doing, Joe? Is he doing super middle or light heavy?
He's doing super middleweight, Jose.
Okay.
No way, Jose. Really?
Pardon?
Nothing, Joe.
So all else bubbling away nicely in the gym anyway, Joe?
Yeah, everything's great. I don't know if you're aware of, like I say, Michael Jennings has joined us now, and I'm really excited about him coming back, and also Scott Cardle, he's joined me now, and he's looking to make his pro debut soon. He's another good kid. I'm sure Frank knows him from the England setup, and yeah, the gym's really bouncing. There's new blood and old blood coming in. There's a real good balance, a mixture, and it's an exciting year ahead.
Joe, do you see parallels between Jennings joining your gym and, say, Colin Lyons when he moved to the TKO, you know, veteran stage of his career being revitalised by a new setup?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at, like I said, the people who have come, Matthew Macklin, Paul Smith, they've all found a new lease of life. Paul's unlucky with the goals, but Macklin's gone onwards and upwards. And Michael Jennings, I think his inactivity has got to create a longevity in his career, being not so active the last few years, has got to add on the end of it. And I think that's a good fight, Mike Jennings and Colin Lyons. If Mike can come back and impress in 1 or 2 fights and Colin's still champion, that would be a great fight.
Now, Joe, just I know that there's another Joe alongside you. We've been talking Martin Murray earlier. We even mentioned John Murray, of course, because we had a quick chat earlier about the fight with Kevin Mitchell. And now we have genius Joe Murray, featherweight contender, of course. Now, Joe, you've had an English title fight change. Give us a lowdown. What's happening now on February the 4th?
I'm not quite sure myself. I think I was supposed to be fighting Chris Mayo Chris Mayle's pulled out on a back injury, so I know as much as you guys at the moment.
Well, that's still penciled in, the Reebok, February the 4th. You're obviously just, going to get everything right for that fight night anyway.
Yeah, I've just got to keep my head. I was always fighting February 4th, so I've just got to keep my head and just train to that date still, and train like I'm fighting still Chris Mayle or someone like that, and be best Joe Murray I can at the time.
And Joe, have you been doing a bit of sparring with Stephen Smith?
No, I've been sparring Scott quite a bit. I've been sparring Scott Cardle, and doing a bit of sparring with them lads at the moment, and sparring's going well.
Okay, I mean, what sort of shape are they in at the moment? What do you think of Cardle so far? Because obviously not long out of the amateur game.
I think Scott Cardle's turning well. He's very sharp at the moment, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people when he does turn pro. He's got a lot of power, and I think he's going to come down a couple of weights, and I think he'll shock a lot of people when he turns pro.
Joe, it is the year of the Olympics, of course. You are a Beijing Olympian. You found it. We were speaking to David Price before, obviously, a Team GB colleague of yours who had an incredible weekend last weekend. But he feels he's been under the radar a little bit in terms of other people getting a lot of hype in his division. Now, you've certainly been under the radar compared to some of the other Olympians, and I know it's something that maybe has helped you in the long run. Is that the way you feel?
Yeah, I think it has helped me a little bit, but I'm ready to fight anyone now. I want to move my career on. I think I've been holding back for some reason. Not my own fault, and I think I want to move my career on now, and I want to get these title fights now and push on with my career.
But how much does it help, do you think, learning your trade without the big spotlight that the likes of Frankie Gavins had to deal with?
I think it was a lot of help at the time. I think I've got an older brother who boxes as well, and he went the same radar, and I think it helps you learn a lot more into the trade. When you're holding and stuff like that, you can learn a lot more tricks in the pro game. But when you put straight on Sky, they're expecting you to knock people out in the first or second round, or you get criticised, and I think it can get to some fighters that sometimes.
Joe, what's your main ambition there for 2012? I mean, if this all goes well, substitute opponent comes in, you win the English title, taking nothing for granted. Is it a British title by the end of the year? Is that realistic?
Yeah, I'd like to fight Selby. I think it would be a great fight, me and Selby. I'd like to fight him in this fight if I could, but it's not going to happen this early. But yeah, I'd like to fight Selby, and I think it'll be a cracking fight. And hopefully, I can take the titles off him.
And the opportunity to get revenge for your gym mate as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, Joe, we're just talking obviously to Joe G there next to you, but the gym is bustling now. Jenny's coming in. It's a real mix of accents that you've got in that gym in Bolton now. You've got all the Scousers. There's got all the Manx, obviously. A lad from Chorley, Scott Quigg from Bury. It's a real northwest hotbed of, I don't know. It's an incredible melting pot up there.
Yeah, I think with everyone being there as well, I think everyone gets boosted on. We're on the track together. We're pushing each other. Like me and Scott are fighting on the same bill. So we're pushing each other on the track, and it makes the best. Like when there's other good boxers in the gym, it pushes the best out of you because you don't want to be left behind. So I think it's great. All these lads come in, and it makes it like a bit like the English wild card.
You're still the only redhead in the gym. You must feel pretty unique on that score.
Yeah, I can keep that to himself, can I?
And I believe John's back in. John's just returned. Is that right?
Yeah, John's come back now, and I think he can't wait to get back into a fight. I think fighting Mitchell and Rios is giving him the eager again, like he's 18 again. I think he can't wait to get in there, and I think he done himself proud in New York, and I think everyone who knows Johnny will be back, and he'll be back stronger.
Well, thanks very much indeed for your time, Joe, and I hope that's the training day over for you now. Is he going to push you further? Is that it?
Yeah, I've got to go and do some track work now.
Oh, right. Oh, of course he did, man. You're right. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks as well to Joe alongside you. All the best to you, lads.
Thanks.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks, mate. Cheers,
Take it easy.
For having us.
Enjoy the rest of the training.
But have a good year, Frank, as well. We're coming for you, son.
Cheers, Joe.
All right, mate. See you later, son.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
There you go. They have got... Joe likes to call it the UK wildcard. It is a bustling gym up there. Yeah. It is an interesting one as well. But I suppose in many ways there are comparisons with your own gym.
Yeah, I mean TKO is full of fighters. You've got quite a few different stables. They're all training together, and then you get a lot of amateurs come through as well. White collar fighters, cage fighters. So it's great.
It's bigger as well. TKO gym.
It's all right.
Yeah,
bit of north side nonsense
Gallagher's
going on here, bit of north side divide.
Just saying.
Well, let's get to your predictions anyway, Mr. Flexen.
Oh, this is revenge, right?
Yeah,
go on then.
Because you had a bit of a shocker last week, didn't you?
I think I did. No,
well, it was a semi-shocker.
I got one right, one wrong. Could have been worse.
Well, now, how did you do this time around, in fairness? It's over to you. Big yourself up.
Well, I said the Derry Matthews fight would be a mid to late stoppage, and I was right there if we ignore the fact that I picked the wrong winner. But the other fight, I got bang on. I said Price would stop McDermott early, and not many other people predicted that, although apparently someone did who we spoke to earlier. Darren Barker, before we lost him, he managed to get that in first.
Well, we can just say to Darren as well when he does get around to seeing this, you're welcome to pop in next time, Darren. Sorry about the nonsense with the phone, but you're going to have to move out of that house.
Yeah. Bring the cot with you, Darren, if you come in. We'd like to see it.
But briefly, because you mentioned there, all right, you got the Matthews prediction wrong, you got Price prediction
right.
very
right.
Fair enough, it was indeed. But what happens now with Derry, do you think?
He tells me not to bet on him anymore, probably, for a start. But after that, I don't know. He put on Facebook earlier today that there's a big fight announcement coming soon. Whether that's a rematch or not, I'm not sure. Be interesting to hear from him what he feels he could do differently, because he took, at least in the last few rounds, a bit of a pounding from Marsili. So it'll be interesting to see what he says about that. Unless it's another option, maybe Gavin Rees again. That would be a decent fight.
He's had a tough career in many ways. He had a bad year, didn't he? And then obviously the Rees fight, terrible nose damage, and then again, you know, he's obviously taken a few belts at the weekend again.
He's very good technically, Derry, and he's very brave, but I think nearly every defeat he's had, he's been stopped. And that is a bit of a worry, because you do start to think about punch resistance. You know, is he basically coming up against people that just punch incredibly hard, and it's always late in a fight? But then even in prize fight, a final, although he was drained by his semi to Choi, he was stopped by Buckland in the final. And you have to start to think, is there a problem with taking shots, especially body shots, which you know Marsili put him down with, and Buckland did as well, and Choi obviously.
Well, we'll just get your prediction quickly. The Frampton-Hughes fight. What do you think?
I think Frampton's a healthy favourite, but Chris Hughes is a decent fight. You know, he's good technically, he's a good mover, he judges distance well, so I don't think he'll go down easy. I think maybe a late stoppage, maybe even points.
John Ryder, who's been in these very chairs as well, of course, a friend of ours, who fights again. Yeah, should have no worries. We wouldn't have thought.
Nah, not at all. I mean, Ryder's definitely a good prospect. Same as, you know, we want to see a big fight between him and Billy Joe Saunders in the future, and he can keep that alive. I don't see him having too many problems at the weekend.
Well, Frank, any weekend plans for you? Is it all work?
Training Saturday and then rest day Sunday. So I'm looking forward to it.
Not watching any football over the weekend, FA Cup weekend?
I'll only follow the boxing.
It's the best way to be.
Did you not get your team out of you last time?
Chelsea.
Yeah,
Chelsea colours, but
yeah. Oh, that's not an Italian thing with the shorts.
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
a little bit of both.
That works, I suppose.
Best of both worlds. They've had Italian managers often enough, haven't they? Sorry.
Yeah.
Get me started.
Anyway, so weekend for you, Dan? Anything good?
I'm actually going to pro wrestling on Saturday, which is interesting on the fight show because it's all choreographed. But yeah, I'm going to TNA Pro Wrestling, hopefully meet Hulk Hogan.
Is Hulk Hogan?
You asked.
I'm blindly ignorant to this. Where's this event?
It's at Wembley Arena. It's sold out apparently, so it's popular. But I should emphasise it is a predetermined.
You're the only one over 12. That is. Are you accompanying a child, I hope?
Well, I hope not. That sounds a bit creepy.
No, really, you shouldn't be let in unless you've got...
I'm not accompanying a child. I'm going on my own and hoping to find one when I'm there. That's even creepier.
Goodness gracious me. Well,
on that bombshell, as Alan Partridge
don't quite know where that was going. Frank, it's been a pleasure seeing you again.
Thanks
and all
very
the
much
very best for the fight with Ryan Clark. And, obviously, you're in shape. You're pretty much on the button now anyway, I presume.
Yeah, I'm walking around about 12.5. I've got to make 12.2 for this one, so not too bad at all.
Yeah, me too. About 12.5.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, and we'll see you again. Down 2 fights time. Maybe,
yeah, hopefully. Thanks very much.
And as ever, Danny, thank you very much.
Can I come back as well? Or?
I think so. Well, maybe not after the last comment. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I might be arrested.
Well, have a nice weekend. Enjoy the wrestling anyway. This is The Fight Show. Thanks very much indeed for joining us right here on Sports Tonight Live.